Hi,
Hey, Hillary.
how you doing?
I'm good. I was thinking about what a big topic we have today.
Well, we don't have to cover everything.
No, but it is big. The microbiome is just unbelievable. As I was
Well,
preparing
people
and
don't
thinking
know
about it,
what we're talking about, so why don't you give an intro?
an intro. Well, we're doing a spring clean, so of course we think about how do we support our microbiome, which is all of the other species that are living with us. And I think that when we were in school, it was sort of very minimal research. I was looking back at one of our big talks on this. I think that
That's cute. You went back and looked at our notes from med school?
I did.
You
I
still
did.
have like literally the notebooks? We didn't even have computers. That's how old
No, I have files. This is hilarious. I have files.
we didn't have computers.
No, we
Everything was
didn't. We didn't. I have files by topic that I used in my residency, and there were 6 of us residents at Bastyr, and I remember if any of them see this, they'll remember that we had my files were like everything from every class on a specific topic. So in my GI file, I have all the microbiome talks, and people would like go in there and look at the files. Literally, that's what we had when I was in my residency. So all of us would be using these things. Anyway, I have them. I look back.
That's
Anyway,
awesome.
I know.
I want them.
I know. Or is it sort of,
Yeah.
I need to, next time we talk, when we talk about cleaning out your clutter, we should come back to those files and discuss why I still have these files.
It'll have so many amazing old things. Like this is totally off topic, but there like saunas are so de moda right now. Saunas and cold plunges and saunas and cold plunges, and you can't go anywhere without seeing people cold plunging and sauning and the whole thing. And it's so awesome. And it's just been such a long-standing part of our therapeutics. And we had this amazing clinical medicine when we learned physical medicine department. It was like a whole floor, and we had huge baths that we would get people. I mean, they were like stainless steel, these enormous baths that we would literally like a dunk tank, put human beings in and raise their core temperature up and put them into cold and hot and cold and hot and cold. I just was having a talk this morning with my guy who's a builder, and he's like, yeah, I'm putting in another sauna. And I was like, this is so awesome. It's like the full sauna revolution. Like everybody knows that they need hydrotherapy in their homes, like this hot and cold. And it's so awesome.
This is funny because this is so funny. Yesterday, I researched all the saunas because we're replacing our backyard shed with a sauna.
Yeah. And this is it. It's like everybody's sauning, and it's so epic. I mean, I did it. It was a huge part of my toxicity story. I'm afraid, sadly, because I was such a huge sauner way back in college, and I would bring my little cute plastic Nalgene bottle thinking I was doing good things for me, sitting in the sauna for 45 minutes, drinking my really hot BPA and plastics. So that's a different topic. But what that did to my microbiome, I wonder, right? Because all that plastic, but bringing it back, like it's so awesome right now. Like we're fully in this health revolution. People have recognized that they need to take care of their own homes, that healthcare needs to be in the home. And that it's you're not going to get it from a doctor's office. Really, it's like I think COVID really taught that on a huge scale. Like, whoa, we have problems, and some people are having major problems with viruses that we're coming up against, and these things are going to evolve and change, and that like health starts from within. And so it's just such a great segue into the microbiome, because it's true. When we learned medicine, it's like if you count the things that we learned, like we didn't know anything really about the microbiome. We thought the uterus was sterile. We thought that vitamin D was toxic over 400 a day or 8, like in this extraordinarily narrow therapeutic window. And by the way, if you haven't gotten your vitamin D tested, like go check it out from your doctor. Like this month, I think maybe it's March, and everybody's bottoming out from the winter. I just had a teenager come back at 6.
I had a 17 yesterday, a 21 yesterday.
Everyone's so low, and their bodies hurt, and they're tired, and they're depressed, and like and if your vitamin D is low, it's impacting your microbiome. if you're not detoxing, it's impacting your microbiome. So anyway, the vitamin D, the saunaing, let's all bring it back to the microbiome.
Bring it back to the microbiome because I don't know, it's fun for us because Hillary and I are two doctors for so long that it's fun for us to talk about these trends and kind of what we've seen over time because the perspective is really interesting. So when we were in medical school, the first few studies started to come out on the microbiome, and now there's tens of thousands of studies on the microbiome. And we didn't even say the word microbiome back then when we were in medical school, but we were giving people probiotics. We knew the GI system had a link with our immune system and that we needed probiotics, but we didn't know like everything. And so
but we knew that there was that the gut was the central source for many systemic immune reactions and for systemic inflammation, anything autoimmune. Like we always went back to the gut. It's how we learned medicine. And we knew about critters, right? Like yeast was such a big thing where people were like, there's an overgrowth of bad critters. And so it was always about some critter management. And then if you put in good critters, then it would keep the bad down. Like we definitely knew that.
But gastroenterologists scoffed at that and said there's no reason to take probiotics. And they didn't recognize the immune system link with the GI system and potentially as being the root cause of autoimmune disease. That now is very recognized in medicine. But back then, we had a slew in Seattle of older naturopathic physicians who are phenomenal doctors, by the way. And they taught us really incredible things that only now make sense scientifically. So they taught us, and you're going to remember this, if someone's depressed, treat their gut. Now that didn't really make sense at that time, Hillary, remember? Like we were like, okay, so I guess it's sort of anti-inflammatory. You take out the foods that cause them problems. But now we know that so much of our mood, there's a brain gut connection with our microbiome, the good, healthy bacteria in our bodies. And so I did some fun facts Friday for you, just for you, Hill. You're gonna love this. Ready?
Friday.
Here's the first one. Ready? 3 times more bacterial cells than our own cells. So
in our microbiome, in our gut alone, or in
in our whole body, we have 3 times more bacterial cells than our own cells.
So we're literally just being walked around by bacteria, and we think we're in a body, but it's really not ours.
You have no concept of how many of these there are. And so there's about 1,000 species of bacteria that are colonized everywhere, all over our bodies. And that's like one number. Like, so there's 1,000 different species. And within those species, there's so much different varieties. We have so many different kinds. And we're sort of discovering how more different kinds are more important on a daily basis. You know, my inbox, I kind of have PubMed, which is all the medical literature for certain topics delivered to my inbox. So it's kind of fun. So I can go in and look at it, you know. And the microbiome stuff is just like bam, 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 so much research all the time. And so we didn't know, for instance, when we were in medical school, that the genital urinary tract has its own microbiome. So it has a ton of bacteria that are living there and supporting us. And we just didn't know that. And I remember when I was in my residency, we figured out that we could give people probiotics. There were the first few studies for chronic urinary tract infections. So if you're out there trying to get pregnant, you got to listen to this because this is so important. You can take bacteria orally, take these like capsules of bacteria orally, and it will travel over to your uterus and ovaries and your bladder and all these places. It'll travel and colonize those things. So it's incredible how this works in our bodies.
I think what's also happening that's so cool right now is that we learned, obviously, when you learn medicine in the 90s or before, that it was like that the body is divisible by parts. So there's a cardiovascular system, the pulmonary system, you know, the GI tract. And then there were doctors for those parts, the brain, and there still are, right? Those are the specialists that we know and love for helping us diagnose and treat illness. But what's happening now is that people are really getting the memo that we are not divisible and that everything is one and that everything communicates. And that's that concept that like that your uterus would be sterile, even though it's right next to, it's looped around by bowel all around it, and then you're like, oh no, those stay there. The uterus is sterile. Like, it's so funny, right?
It is funny.
And they were literally like, the appendix, we have no idea what it is. It's just something we don't know. Like, you'll just take it out. Like, it's funny that and now I just feel like now people are like, we're just getting this real concept in evolving. Yeah. Everything is one, that our thoughts actually influence our bacteria and our microbiome, that the microbiome, what's happening with those bacteria influences our thoughts and our even spiritual connection or connectivity, that it's all just like so cool.
Yeah. And so many aha moments, like when we learned about how a candida or a yeast, which is a normal gut flora, when it's overgrown, it can actually make your brain, it sends a signal to your brain to crave sugar. Like, that's
unbelievable,
earth-shattering information to me. So if you have an overgrowth of candida in your intestines, it can influence your thoughts and your cravings, and then it's getting what it wants, right? It wants to get some sugar to overgrow.
You have hungry ass critters that are living inside of you.
I know. Okay, so we hear this. I have another fun fact. I think you're going to like this one a lot. You're going to use this. You're going to use this with all our patients from now. Ready? The microbiota produces 2 to 4 liters of gas per day.
Wait, but not everybody has that much gas.
They do. It produces 2 to 4 liters per day.
But that feels so immeasurable to me. Okay,
that's incredible. Imagine that. So I wanted to say that because
we're all just blowing methane continuously. It's not just the cows.
No, it's not just that. It's that when people start taking probiotics or eating, like we're going to show them some foods, which Hillary has all set up, that when you start shifting all the bacteria in your gut, you may get a little gas and a little gurgling and all that kind of stuff. So those, I think it's really important to note, like that can be a really normal thing in this transition when you're establishing higher percentages of certain kinds of bacteria or totally new colonies of bacteria. I think that's really good to know. So if you start a probiotic and you're like, oh, I'm not sure if it's good for me, it's giving me more gas, maybe it's because now you have some good bacteria going.
And you're feeding it, right? So there's this whole concept, and I'm sure in your facts that you're planning on getting to the point where it's not just that there's these critters, that we want to make sure that we have a good amount of the right species,
right,
and low amounts of species that are more toxic to us.
Right.
But also that you need to feed them good food and proper food. And people might be surprised to know like those foods are fiber foods, and our diet is so crucially low. You said something the other day with one of our patients. You had a statistic about fiber and how low we were, and just as a society compared to other cultures, because there's no natural tubers in our diet, and there's no natural kind of, this fibrous food is just not quite there. But so it really does come back to, and it's one of the old tenets that you learned growing up, or everybody's probably heard, that you are what you eat. And
you are what you eat. Not
only that you are what you eat, but you are the bacteria that eat what you eat. And so like sometimes I feel like in a way it might be more motivating. Like if you can't make diet changes for you, make it for the cute critters living in you. Like you want the happy singing, really psyched guys, and not the like yucky, gross, sticky, pathological critters. That's how I always think about it. But I have, in the last 5 years, I think, or maybe 10 years it's been since I've really appreciated the connection to brain. I mean, really, like there's nobody that's suffering from anxiety or depression or just what I call dysthymia, right? Just that like life doesn't feel good. Like this can be so greatly improved. Not always cured for everybody, but greatly improved if you feed the critters in your gut well, and if you make sure the critters in your gut are in balance and happy.
Yeah. And so I think, and what you're saying is really important too, because that's when all the research started coming out on this, like how the mind can be affected by our flora and what kind of bacteria we have. So we already kind of talked about there's like 1,000 different species of bacteria, but in your gut, you have 100,000 billion microbes. So that's like a lot of bacteria in our gut. So my last fact that I'm leaving you with, Hillary, is that approximately 50% of fecal matter, I'm going to say fecal matter, is your gut microbiome.
So it's just they're shedding, they're turning over, and so it's just their just that fecal mass is okay. It's fascinating, right?
And bacterial microbiome is half of what you're pooping out is your bacterial microbiome.
Well, just the other day I was talking to the kids about weight and weight gain and weight management, and that it's so unfair because people were given just for so long, and still to this day go to their doctors and they get told this kind of BS that like if you exercise more and you eat less calories, I can't tell you the number of women that were putting more food on their plate. Like I mean, it's like a world of like unnourished people on so many levels because they're starving or keeping very low caloric diets for weight loss. And I was just saying how the market's going to change so much. Like obviously, where I'm not going to get into the toxicity of the food supply and the bad oils and all that stuff. But the thing that's interesting is one of the treatments for obesity now is that doing fecal transplants for, that you can take the feces of a person that has skinny jeans essentially and potentially put that microbiome into the person that's been really struggling with their weight or is overweight, and that is going to potentially make the shift for them to switch their just change their epigenetics and change the weight game. It was fascinating.
You can switch all of these things, and a lot of it is taking probiotics. So, I mean,
okay, let's talk about it. Probiotics.
Let's talk about taking probiotics. So there's two ways to take probiotics. So in our foods, we can get it from our foods. And then we can also take supplements. So those are the two ways.
Or like this.
Yeah. And I think this is a good point because people come back to us, Hill, and say, I didn't really quite get that before, that if you're going to have sauerkraut to get the microbiome and to support your microbiome and get the bacteria from that, you have to get the refrigerated sauerkraut. You can't have the one that's sort of canned or jarred on the shelf. So
everything has to be alive.
Right.
Because there's so many things that are
lost on, we've had many people come back and say, I'm glad you all said that. So you have to go kind of to the refrigerator section of the grocery store. And now, what is that? The sauerkraut?
Yeah. I just, it's just like one of nature's most perfect foods, which I argue is cabbage. I mean, I think it's just like, first of all, it grows everywhere. It grows like a weed, really. Cabbage. It grows in like, you don't need the best conditions to grow it.
And it can't be super hot, but other than really hot weather, you're okay with cabbage.
I shouldn't speak that much about what I don't know. But I just see cabbage in a lot of places and cabbage leaves, and you know what I mean? It's like, this thing is like hardy, and seriously helps you detox xenobiotics or just like extra estrogen and endocrine disruptors. These guys, like cabbage itself, is one of the main plant families that helps you detoxify.
But this is where the gas thing can happen, right, Hill? This is what happens. If you're watching this and you're decided, I'm going to go get some sauerkraut and some cabbage and eat a ton of it, you're going to get a lot of that gas and upset. So we have to go slowly and get our body used to things, right? So it's like a forkful a day is a really good place to start on this stuff.
This is a new brand that I found.
I haven't seen that. What is that when you showed it?
Okay, because I have like one of the best health food stores on the planet. down the street from me. We'll do a show from there because it's insane. So this is organic coconut, spring water, cassava root. So cassava root helps to feed
the bacteria.
And then vegan probiotic cultures. It doesn't list oh yes, it does.
Yeah, it has to.
BB12, LA5, CRL 431. So really good lactobacilli strains. A Saccharomyces strain. Anyway, and it's eco-friendly. It's all plant-based ingredients. And this is compostable and it's made from plant things. So we're getting rid of let's try to make a movement where we get rid of our plastic yogurt containers. Cause I love yogurt. I love like Strauss yogurt, which is right from up the way in good old California is where all the gorgeous cows eat all this gorgeous grass. It's so beautiful. But this is amazing that they're changing the plastic yogurt containers. So that would be awesome if everybody can do that. Like Strauss, just make compostable yogurt containers because I love
that stuff's coming. You can get yogurt in glass. I buy it in glass over here, but
this is a great brand, really nice probiotic, just good fermented yumminess.
But so this is the idea, is that you want a varied amount of species that you're getting in daily. And you also want to be taking good probiotics. So Raquel just wrote in and she was saying that Hillary she makes her own sauerkraut, which we really like. What's Julie's book called?
Right here, I've got it.
Oh, you just pulled it out. How funny. Awesome.
Fermented. You guys, we did a couple shows with this gorgeous woman, Julie O'Brien. She's from Seattle. This is her book, Fresh and Fermented. And it's got a million recipes that are so incredible. And yes, I think the answer is if you make all like sauerkrauts that are alive need to be refrigerated.
Right.
Unless it's pasteurized. But even once you open that, it should be refrigerated.
If you're making your own, fermented foods, which everyone should be doing, it's quite easy actually to do. You kind of make a brine. You can make it, I do it in the spring with radishes and you just kind of let it sit on your shelf. The longer you let it sit, the more bacteria is going to grow. So it gets more tangy and then it's like gone, right? Like it's like super vinegary and you can't have it. So that's kind of it. You just need to know what taste do I like? And then you refrigerate it at that point. And
she's
got kind of the only
many insane recipes, like how to make sauerkraut, how to make spicy kraut, ruby red kraut, spicy red kraut. But one of the really fascinating
Raquel is saying cute things to us. So I just want to say today, yesterday was National Doctors Appreciation Day. I got flowers.
Oh,
the most beautiful red tulips. Like I was like so excited. I was like, wait, why do I get flowers? And she's like, well, it's Doctor Appreciation Day. So next year I'll get you something.
How sweet. I got
end of March.
I got a day of beautiful people in my office. That's enough, right? But anyway, so we want you to start playing with fermented foods. And you know what I loved about Julie when she told us? She does a ton of like mocktails using ferments.
So like using the brine. So if radishes are really like thinly sliced into ferment. For some reason that just does it for me because they still have a little bit of they're not as mushy sometimes as sauerkraut. So I like a little bit more of a texture. Anyway, I never thought to like use the brine if you're making something. So you can make like a dip and use that as the liquid in the dip. And then your dip
we have this amazing recipe, right?
Or you can like put a little shot in a drink. Remember? That was
white bean recipe where we put the brine. Oh my God, it was insane. It made it like so tangy.
And
she put it in her smoothies.
Okay, we love to talk over each other. Sorry.
But it's so exciting. It's because she put the brine in the smoothie. And you couldn't even tell it. It brought out this like amazing richness. Yeah. So for people who don't want to eat dairy or I feel like kombucha is a go-to move for a lot of people with probiotics. And these are mostly pasteurized now and there's sugar in them. So it's not my favorite strategy. Like I'd rather you eat
And the strains in kombucha aren't necessarily the strains we're trying to do for genitourinary tract. So the strains are important. So this is one thing. We want a plethora of bacteria. So we want all this bacteria, and buying from a farmer's market, you're getting the bacteria because you're getting a little dirt on that food and stuff. So you're constantly in contact with these bacteria. But you also do need to take a probiotic. So should we give a few tips on like what to look for in a probiotic? Well, people should take those probiotics, but we've been using those since 2013. So it's now 10 years using these probiotics. And we get incredible results using these probiotics. And one of the things that I first noticed that was not necessarily why I was giving the people the probiotics was their acne would go away on them. So I find that really interesting because there's that gut skin connection too, right? And so if you have inflammation in your gut, you often see it in your skin. So if you do have any kind of skin thing going on, look at what's going on in your GI system. So that's one thing that's really important. But having a coat on the probiotic that makes it so it gets past your stomach acid. What's stomach acid supposed to do? Kill bacteria. We don't want to get infections. It's supposed to kill bugs. So if you have good stomach acid, which I hope you do, all of these foods we've just told you, you're going to get just a tiny percentage actually delivered to your intestines and colon where we want them to grow. So you do need a constant exposure to these bugs, and you need a blast, like Hillary has in her hand, of a capsule that has an acid-resistant coat. So that is the number one problem that I see with people's probiotics. They're taking powder probiotics. They think it's in their smoothie shake mix, all that kind of stuff. And you might be getting it, but you're getting a small percentage. And if you're paying for probiotics, you should have an acid-resistant coat. So that's
for sure. There's probiotics are part of the marketing machine now of America. Obviously, they're in everything and things are sprinkled. But yeah, you just want to make sure that you're like she said, that you're getting them to the place that they're supposed to be, which is the large intestine. So it's quite a journey they have to go on. You want to make sure that as many can get there as possible. And you just also want to make sure, like, is it shelf stable? Is it refrigerated? Like their probiotics this one is shelf stable, but some need to be refrigerated. So you just want to mind what that needs to be. And I also, I'm really just careful about where you get them. They're expensive, and they should be, because they're medicine, right? Like it's potent medicine and one of the best preventions for all kinds of things. So you just want to make sure you're getting really a reliable, good.
And it's a business, so if you go and pick up probiotics on the shelf, I'm always so aggravated by the fact that they don't tell what the probiotic is. They'll say the name, like whatever the genus and species is of the probiotic, but then they don't give the license plate like number after it. And that number is where you can go to the international data bank of these microbiome bugs and type that in and see all the research on that. So that's what you want. That's what you should be paying for. I want them researched for inflammation, researched for digestion, research for, like, ours actually has research where it's like, I want to have a strain in there that is actually researched in pregnancy. Like, I would like to know that if I'm going to suggest that people take a probiotic in pregnancy, so you really should look and see those little license plate kind of numbers after the name of the bacteria, and it should have that. And I doubt the yogurt does, Hill, because they typically don't, because they're small.
No, they totally do.
Because it's a new company.
They're badass yogurt it's like BB12, LA5, CRL4.
Yep.
The really interesting.
Then you could type in and see, like, this strain helps people with dairy issues absorb their calcium. Like, you can look up the specific strains and know exactly what it's doing. So I'm really particular with that in our probiotic there, because I want to know, do I have the best strain for this? Am I supporting what I'm trying to support? So it's really important. Anyway, Hill, I am having to get back to some things here.
Yeah, you might have some needles to pull out of patients. Yeah,
No, I have patients coming in. I wasn't sitting here talking to you with people in the other rooms with acupuncture needles. That would be really irresponsible. Because I'm focused on you.
Well, we both had the same beautiful, fun, lovely acupuncturist in med school. She was a naturopathic doctor, a midwife, and an acupuncturist. So anybody who knows who I'm speaking of, she was like an amazing pioneer. But she had a way of leaving you in those back rooms with those needles on for forever. And you're like, somebody, please, somebody, just come take the needles. I'm done. I'm cooked.
I know.
Take them out. Where's the alarm?
I know. And I would be laying on my stomach too very often. She was like working on my back very often. So I couldn't just like pull out I couldn't reach them all to get out of there. That was funny. But okay, so the takeaway today is like figuring out what fermented foods you can add in and having, just a forkful or a spoonful every day and not going overboard, because then you can, we want to work our way up, and then getting a really good probiotic. Those are
and we'll do a whole separate episode on all the foods to eat, all the important foods to eat to feed your microbiome. That's coming up.
Bye.
Hey, sweetie, have a great day. Have a great life out there. I love you.
I love you too. Bye.